logistical items. As we hear some lovely music in the background, the first thing that I'm going to ask everyone to do before we get started, if you scroll to the bottom of your screen, and there should be a taskbar that shows up that will let you mute your audio. If I can ask, just for the sake of distractions at this point, if you could mute yourself, that would be helpful. Okay. Within that context, so you won't be able to speak to Candace, our presenter, just yet. However, if you do not already see on the right side of your screen, you should also see that there is a chat box available. If you go down to the bar at the bottom, there will be a button that does say chat. So if you have any questions throughout the course of the presentation, please feel free to put them into the chat box. And Candace has built in some time at the end of the program to answer any questions that you might have. As some of you also have done so far, right next to where you were able to mute, if there's any reason that you need to stop your own video at any point, please feel free to click that stop video button. Just for example, I'm going to turn my video off and I can turn it right back on. So please feel free to do that if necessary throughout the next hour. And one more housekeeping item, just the evaluation for this program is really important to us, as this is the first of what we hope will be many webinar series for NJ SOFI. So you'll be getting an evaluation via email within about 5 minutes of the program ending. So we really appreciate that you do complete that. And if you do, you will get an opportunity to see Candace's checklist that she'll be discussing through her presentation. For anybody that is CHES or MCHES certified, I also just wanted to make sure you know there are no credits available for this session at this time, but we do hope that future programming will allow for credits for CHES and MCHES. And then lastly, before I turn it over to Candace, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows we do have the NJ SOFI mid-year program coming up on June 8th at Rutgers University. I will be including save the date information with the evaluation that goes out via email, so we really hope that you will consider joining us on June 8th. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our presenter for the day. Candace Davenport is our current NJ SOFI president. She works as a health educator, public health nurse in the township of Maplewood. And Candace, go ahead, take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I see that some of you are on here and have turned off your video. Feel free to turn it on and don't be shy. It was nice to see you guys and see your reactions. So this is our first time doing a webinar, so hope you'll be engaged in it. What are our objectives today? So our objectives are to identify a health educator's goal in giving a community presentation. If you go to the top, it'd be great to use some of the polling action that we have going on here. Do we have the action, Linda?
We were just going to do the Survey Monkey at the end.
We're just going to do Survey Monkey at the end. Okay. Provide a checklist of supplies and materials that you should have with you when you give a community presentation. Practical techniques and best practices to put your best foot forward and prepare before, during, and after a presentation. Practical tips on public speaking, and act as a resource for you to answer your questions on how to avoid common mistakes when giving a presentation. So there is putting your practical tips in public speaking. Just to let you know, this is not on how to create a PowerPoint. Given that many of you are students and new professionals, we'll assume that you know how to create a PowerPoint and have learned how to do that basics, but we're going to take you into the practical realm of giving a presentation in the community. So why do we give presentations? Health educators teach people about behaviors that promote wellness. They develop and implement strategies to improve the health of individuals and communities. Well, in order to teach people, we need to go to where the people are and meet them in their space. What we're referring to when we say community presentations today is out in the physical, not the virtual community. Although the tools and skills that we will talk about today can be applied to any setting, including a formal presentation at a conference, a meeting, or to a virtual community using technology like this. So what is a health educator's goal in giving a community presentation? Linda, do we have the ability to chat?
Yes, we should. Again, if you scroll to the bottom, there should be a button that says chat. You can then include any questions on the side that you would like.
That sounds great. So it'd be great if you guys could go to the chat button. So for some of you, it's on the bottom. For some of us, like me, it's on the top and it's under more. Give me the answer that you feel answers this question the best. What is a health educator's goal in giving a community presentation? Is it A, to check off a requirement to give X number of presentations for a grant or for your job? B, to get out of the office? C, to meet new people? Or D, to help communities learn about good public health practices, provide them with skills and knowledge, and change attitudes and behavior? So if you can join on the chat and just give us your chat responses, that would be great. Okay, everyone says D. I'm getting a lot of hits on D, and you are correct. Thank you for that participation on the chat. Awesome. We're going to move on. All right. So can you describe the picture on the left, right? You want your audience to be engaged. You want them to be attentive. You want them to be focused. Your presentation must provide something for them and mean something to them and to their lives in order for them to value what you are saying. The picture on the right may seem familiar to you as well. Perhaps you have felt this way at presentations or in a lecture. Are these people engaged? Are they focused? Are they listening? If not, then are they learning? While you may have no control over the material or topic, you are in the driver's seat for how much enthusiasm, confidence, and the purpose you convey on your material, and that makes all the difference in the world. When you schedule a presentation, the first things you need to do are clarify and verify. Clarify what your presentation will be discussing, and verify what type of presentation they're looking for. Clarify what your topic is about and the main objectives. You don't want your audience to be disappointed or misled about the purpose of your presentation. For example, if the audience came of newly diagnosed diabetic patients are expecting a presentation about glucose finger sticks and how to do them properly, they will be disappointed when you talk to them about trans fats and nutrition. Even though it's the same topic, not all presentations will or should be the same. Your job as a health educator is to tailor the material and information to your audience and their needs. It is your job to learn about the best way to deliver the information and get the audience engaged and interested in your materials so they can value the presentation and information in their own lives. Verify. Verify who the audience is and what they're interested in. Sometimes, guys, you have to sell the importance of a public health message. And we'll get more on that later. When you schedule a presentation about 1 to 3 months in advance. Get your presentation ready and consider developing a flyer to promote your presentation, double checking each and every time before a presentation to make sure you have the correct date, time, and location. When you schedule a presentation, identify your point of contact. Exchange contact info, like cell phones and emails in case of an emergency. Confirm the time, date, and location of the presentation, and then map out the location and know how long it will take for you to travel from your original destination. Learn about your audience. How many people? What are they interested in? Is English their second language? Learn about the space. Will there be parking reserved for you? Or would you have to walk to the site? How will the tables and chairs be set up? We'll talk about AV equipment in just a little bit. The day before your presentation, reach out to your point of contact to make sure the room is set up with equipment that you need, tables, chairs, boards, and easels, tables and chairs for your audience, and make sure that someone is going to be there to open the door if you're the first person or presenter in the morning. Do you need a parking pass? Get your materials in order. Get your clothes ready. And make sure your presentation is the correct version that you have, and that you have a backup drive, that you have printed copies for your audience, and that you send an extra copy to your point of contact. Bring a copy with your notes. So for example, today I have my presentation and I have my notes right here so that I can read them to you. It's really important so that you know where to put in messages that you don't want to put on your PowerPoint and overwhelm the audience. Make sure you have gas in your car or have reserved the use of a departmental vehicle. Sometimes where you work, they'll have cars for the health department or for the agency you're working with. You can reserve those in advance, and I would say probably like a week in advance, because you'll be competing for cars and work vehicles with other agencies. So do that way beforehand. And most importantly, practice, practice, practice. And we will get into that, why you need to practice. Practicing, guys, is key. It is the basis and the foundation for all of your presentations. If you go into a presentation cold, you're shooting yourselves in the foot. Essentially, practice in front of the mirror. I know it looks silly, but it is important. Then practice in front of your friends. That's a little harder. And your family. It's also important because you'll get direct feedback then. And then make those changes. Listen to your tone. Are you monotone? Do you have vocal fry? I'm going to use that chat section again. If you guys can go onto chat, can you guys explain what vocal fry is? Can anyone explain what vocal fry is? Has anyone been told they have vocal fry? No? Nobody knows? Okay. Yeah, it's not necessarily a worn out voice, but it's a voice, not necessarily when you sound tired either, but you definitely don't want to sound tired when you do a presentation. It's when your voice goes up, like the way I'm talking. It makes the audience feel that you're not finished with your sentence. So it just keeps going up, and it sounds like a question, even though it's a statement. So that's an example of a poorly bad example of vocal fry. Please, if you have this, work on it. It's a generational phenomenon that if you're presenting to older adults or even adults, they may not take you seriously because of that intonation. No matter how well you dress, no matter how great your presentation is, as soon as you do that, it reduces people's interest. Correct, it's an inflection. So you can also Google what that might sound like if you listen to people being interviewed, not necessarily the interviewer or the commentator, but people that they interview. Anyone between, 20s to 30s has this vocal fry. So do try to work on that because it'll make your presentation so much better. Where should you pause to make people think about your presentation? Never underestimate the value of a pause during a presentation. It helps people to take note that maybe what you're saying is important, and it changes your rhythm of how you're speaking so that people take notice. Where are you asking questions to engage your audience? Notice that in the last couple of minutes, I've asked you two questions during the presentation, and that's to help me gauge, are you listening? Are you getting information? And also helps you to hopefully feel engaged. What worked best in past presentations? What can you do better? So evaluate each presentation every time. Where can you give good examples to demonstrate or illustrate your idea? Do you have props you want to show? Do those props work? So for example, if you need something that, I'll use the sex education presentation, right? So, so if you're presenting with a dildo and how to put on a condom, if you need lubrication, make sure you have lubricant, right? Are you understanding that? If I'm showing you how to develop an emergency preparedness toolkit, right, or kit for your family, then most likely I should have an example of what a kit should look like. So I'd bring the bag, I'd bring the supplies, I'd empty out the bag and show them exactly what's in there. Okay? So we're getting to the nitty-gritty here. Step one, what do I need to bring to a presentation? This is in general, guys. You want to bring writing utensils, pens, pencils, markers, Expo dry erase markers for you, for the whiteboards, and an eraser. Bring pens and pencils for your audience as well. Paper, bring index cards, paper, cardstock, Post-its. The Post-it self-easel stick pad that's on the right side is a perfect example if you are doing a focus group, if you're gathering information, if you're going to be asking questions, if you're going to be moving around a room and you want to write something down and they don't have a whiteboard or a chalkboard. Miscellaneous necessities. Paper clips, huge. Binder clips, awesome. Scissors and tape, tape you always need. So tape should be in bold letters. Thumbtacks, chalk, stapler, staples. Staples are key because in case all of your papers just fly out everywhere, that's also great. A calculator, duct tape. Duct tape in general just works for everything. Clipboards and rubber bands. And here's a section of why do I need those? Band-aids, Neosporin. You never know when a scrape or a cut can occur, and you need to look prepared when you have Band-aids. Stones. When you are doing a community fair and you have an open table out in the open outside, you definitely want to put stones or a heavy weight, a paper weight, on top of your brochures, flyers, or pamphlets. Otherwise, what many of us have learned is that the weather doesn't necessarily cooperate. So your stuff could be blown away, and there goes your community fair presentation. Safety pins for those wardrobe malfunctions, which we all have had at one point or another. A whistle in case you are ever in trouble, or if you're leading a physical activity program, you definitely need a whistle, or if you definitely know you're going to be in a rowdy group of teenagers or middle schoolers, a whistle is great, gets their attention. Don't use it too many times though. Definitely have a bottle of water, okay? And cough drops, because you just never know when someone's gonna wear some strong perfume or if you're gonna be parched and dry. Consider packing everything in an inexpensive roller suitcase. It holds a lot and it makes it easy to transport. You definitely don't wanna look like you have 5 bags that you're carrying plus a box of your materials. If you can put it all in one roller bag, which you can get at Home Depot, Staples, or some other stationary office supply store, that would be really great. Make sure that your office pays for it. Unless you're a consultant, then you would have to pay for it yourself. Step 2, getting down to the brass thumbtacks. The technologies we talked about, we're going to go into the AV equipment. You'll need extra AV cords, okay? You'll need an extension cord, a surge protector, a clicker to advance PowerPoint slides, and an extra flash drive with your materials in it. Remember that if you're giving a presentation and you're bringing your laptop and your LCD projector, you're gonna wanna make sure that you have the cords that connect those two together, all right? You also want to make sure that you have the plugs for those 2 items, okay? Ask the location if they have a laptop, an AV projector, or an LCD projector, or if you have to bring your own. Make sure they have a screen or a wall that's white and free of any paintings or murals or anything like that that you can use to project upon. Ask them if they have a microphone or a lavalier. These are gonna be crucial, especially if you're talking to a large audience. And it's always good to have so that you're not straining or using your voice. Otherwise, remember to bring your own of these items. Organize your materials, and if you don't have something, ask and then improvise. I see someone in the chat. Oh yes, thank you, Linda. You may need to walk a far distance to your table. Roller bags are a great investment. Very true. Now, for the presentation materials. Bring your PowerPoint or presentation on a flash drive. Bring your PowerPoint with notes. Bring copies of your presentation for the attendees, so it's helpful to know how many attendees will be there. As a general rule, print 2 to 3 slides on a page and make sure that they're double-sided, stay green. Bring an original presentation with your notes with a size font that you can read. Bring copies of handouts and include online resources and sources for information on your slides for reference. I did note that in the chat, someone was asking if you'll have these presentations available. We will put it on our website, but for those of you who are in attendance, when you fill out the evaluation, please put in your email address and we will send you all this information in a checklist format. And so only the people who will be attending today will get that awesome checklist format. Okay? If you're looking for inspiration, let's describe some traits of someone who has delivered a presentation for you. Hold on one second. So can you describe for me, what did you like about that great presentation? What was it about their tone, their stance, their personality, or their level of preparedness that you liked? And what turned you off about a presentation? So I'll open it up to the chat and see what are some of the results that you come up with, because you should look to presenters for inspiration. Who are you going to look at? You're going to look at programs you've attended, professors or teachers or guest speakers who've come. What made you sit up in your seat? What made you want to fall asleep is pretty much what I'm asking. Oh, Colleen also mentioned, confirm whether or not Wi-Fi is available on site if you're using online content. That is huge. I should probably add that to the presentation and the checklist, that you should confirm if they have Wi-Fi available, especially if you're linking to websites. So some positive things, they have positive energy, they're energetic. I like when they made jokes or said unexpected things. Great. They know their audience, not tailoring information. This is a bad thing, not tailoring information to the audience in the room. Yes, that is really not fun, because you're just spending your time there listening. You're just like, this is not what I came for. Making it a conversation instead of a lecture, and making things fun for the audience, making lots of eye contact, seems genuine. Those are all terrific ideas. So keep those in mind. And I know for all of these positive comments, you all were talking about me and this presentation today. So thank you. And so I'm going to turn off the Zoom chat right here, and I'm going to move on. Again, it really is helpful to think about who you look to for inspiration. And then when you look in the mirror and you model these things, you want to make sure that you're emulating or using those as examples. Step 4, putting forward your best self. So give yourself ample time to get to the location and compose your thoughts. I'm telling you guys, even 5 minutes does help. You definitely don't want to go into a presentation looking frazzled, out of breath, irritated that you didn't find parking, or just, had to walk so far, blah, blah, blah. So give yourself ample time to get to the location and compose your thoughts. Even 5 minutes. 5 minutes just gives you that breather room. So when you get there, you want to greet your host. You want to smile at the audience attendees. Sometimes you'll get there earlier, which is great. Sometimes you'll get there and the audience is already there, like you're coming in the middle of a presentation. So smile. Lay out your handouts. Look for someone in the audience to help you hand out materials. People like to be involved. They like to be participating. They like to say that they know the presenter, which is also very cool. Test out your microphone and the AV equipment. Again, this is a good reason why you want to get there in advance before an audience member comes. You want to make sure that you can get the plug, make sure you have electricity going to it, and that the microphone or lavalier is working. I want your mantra to be, I am the subject matter expert. So even if you take that 5 minutes beforehand to say, I'm the subject matter expert, get it in your head to get psyched up, be confident, and be organized. So knowing that you're going to be organized is going to make you confident, and then going into it, you want to psych yourself up. I'd also like to ask you, how would someone who is a subject matter expert stand, right? You want to stand tall. You want to stand in the center of the room. If it's a small room, you want to work the room. So you want to kind of walk around, look at people. If that makes you uncomfortable, we'll talk about that. For some of you who listening in, this might be your first time doing a presentation, or maybe you've had a couple of experiences. And then also value your audience's time. Like, do say in the beginning or in the middle or the end, like, I do value your time. I thank you so much for coming. This is a really important topic to discuss, and I hope we have some engaging conversation that comes out of it, okay? So do say that you value your audience's time. So as I mentioned before about eye contact, if you're in a small group, you want to work the room, you want to walk around, you want to make eye contact with those who are sitting on the perimeter, who are kind of shy to sit, in front. You want to make eye contact with the people in the front if you're presenting in the center of the room, right by your presentation. Some people like to stand behind the podium, okay? Especially if the microphone's there, that's kind of where you have to stand. However, if you're like me, you like to work the room, you like to walk side to side. Walking too much can be a little too distracting, so make sure that your movements are not fidgety, but they are focused and concentrated. But if you need to walk around up and down and try to engage people, definitely do that. Okay, so remember the mantra, I'm the subject matter expert, because, ladies and gentlemen, you are. Step 4A, pitfalls of presenting, wah, wah, wah. Okay, so these are pitfalls that I have gathered from my own experience, but also from other people's experience, my colleagues, and also from what I've noticed my colleagues do, unfortunately. But here's the great news, we've all done it. So, but we want you to be better than us and be more prepared and say, oh, no, I won't do those things. You'll make some of these, it's normal, but you should try to avoid them as much as possible, because it'll make your presentation amazing. So number 1, do not read your slide notes or from the slides word for word, like I'm doing right now. That was not intentional. Do not turn your back on the audience. Always look forward, try to make eye contact. Do not look down. When you look down, your voice goes down. That means that you can't project your voice out. And I'd gone a little too fast on the last slide. I said project your voice to the back of the room. So if you always focus that your voice and everything you're trying to articulate goes to the back of the room, you should be loud enough that everyone can hear you. If, however, your voice and your mouth and your head are pointed downward, all of that is going to go down and reduce the volume, and then reduce the importance of what you're trying to say. Did I say already, avoid the vocal fry? Again, can't emphasize it enough. Some of my colleagues, Colleen, have told me that I have a very fast voice, a very fast tone in the way I speak, so I try to work on that. Some people like to say a lot, as I just did. Some people like to say like a lot in between every other word. Some people have the vocal fry. I have to say that there are sometimes where you're around people and you start to pick it up. When you're presenting, try to work your way off of doing that. Do not give the impression that you are not interested in being there. Holy cannoli. If you do this, you are dead. You're dead in the water from the moment you get in. You have got to be, wow, like this is the best presentation. I could be talking to you about gastric bypass surgery or, heartburn ever. Like this is the best presentation you're ever going to have. One of the things I wanted to make note of was that Ali Reisman, who many of you know as the Olympic gymnast, I was watching her one time and listening to this Summer Olympics, and the broadcaster said that they had interviewed her, and she said, I'm just so excited. And they were going for the gold. It was like high stakes. And he said, you know what? The fact that she said, I'm so excited, replaces I'm nervous, I'm anxious. They're two of the same experiences. You can feel jittery, you can feel nerves, but to say, I'm excited to be here, I'm positive about that. You're totally flipping the script and the perspective of how you're giving that presentation. So try to practice that. You know, say to yourself, when you're going in for a test, when you're going in for finals, when you're going in for that big exam, when you're walking across, you know, the stage when you graduate, I'm not nervous, I'm not anxious, I'm excited, okay? Control the nervous giggle and self-deprecation, okay? If you know that you're gonna start laughing, so yeah, if you're gonna do that, don't do it, okay? Again, practice is everything. Please try to control all of that. That helps to keep it a more professional presentation. Self-deprecation, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't get here on time. Oh, I don't know what's wrong with me. Oh, this thing is not working. No one wants to hear that either. They want a presenter that they can feel confident in and who has information that they can trust. So be cool, be calm, and stay collected. Do not make offensive comments even if they're unintentional. So what are some offensive comments that are unintentional? Those people that that were outside, they might have herpes. Okay, that's bad. Those people, and then you stereotype them as having herpes. That is just no, okay? So do try to work on weeding out any kind of off-colored humor and offensive comments. And most importantly, this is in bold, guys, stay on topic. All right, so we're going to get into how some people will want to take you away from the topic. Your job is to stay on topic. Okay, you have maybe a half an hour, 20 minutes, 1 hour to give a presentation, and hopefully I am staying to my topic. Moving on to the TED Talk secret to great public speaking. Many of you have been raised with TED Talks. If you have not seen a TED Talk, they're great resources, but most especially when it comes to public speaking. So there's a website on the bottom right there. It's TED.com, and it tells you these 4 things. It's a great presentation. I think it's only like about 10 minutes, but totally worth your time. Your presentation, like I mentioned before, may be developed by you, or it may be prefabricated, like it comes directly to you and you're charged with giving the presentation. Here are some tips to help you find those salient points of your presentation, and your job is to deliver them home to your audience. Remember that the big ideas of your program deserve repetition. So what are some things I've repeated, right? You want to remember those. See somebody in the chat. You're great, Dom. You're the sweetest. That's awesome. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to get out of this. So remember to focus on one idea, okay? So, or 3, okay? People can remember 3. They can remember 1. Do not give them 10. That's why you're going to get all of this information in a checklist, so that you have that. And if you forget everything that I've told you, just remember that Candace is awesome. So that's all you need to know. Focus on one idea, give examples, make it relevant, and have your points all come back to support that one idea. Give your listeners a reason to care. All right? Why should they care about your presentation? Okay, if your presentation is about heartburn or how to avoid washing your hands, right? That seems to be like a no-brainer, okay? But if you give examples of like, hey, 256,000, and I'm totally making this number up, but 256,000 cases of diarrhea were identified in the United States last year, and all because they got it from not washing their hands. Presenting it with good reasons, that's good reason to say, what did you say now? Build your idea with familiar concepts and then come back to that original concept. Okay, 11 tips for right before you make your presentation. So this is when you before you go up to your presentation or make your presentation. This is for someone who's, giving a talk, but also if you're giving a community presentation. This is also a great blog with 11 tips that you should do right before you go on stage. It'll help you to get in focus. if you think that people who public speak and they make it look so effortless, right? If you think that it comes easy to them or that they were born to do this, I have to tell you that you're wrong, because a lot of us who have done this for many years, a lot of professional health educators, this is part of your job. You need to know how to present information, present it well, make it so that the idea gets bought into the brains of everyone in your audience, and then they change their behavior. If you're a good public health educator, you'll be able to do this. This is not a Jedi mind trick. It takes real skill. But everyone gets nerves. Everyone gets anxious. But if you can follow these 11 tips and turn your frown upside down and make it into, hey, I'm excited to be here, that would be great. So, how to field audience questions. You can do one of two things. Option number one, you can be upfront and say early on that you'll leave time for questions and answers at the end of your presentation. So when you start your program, and you start your presentation, you can say, so I'm going to give you my presentation. It's going to be about 20, 30, 40 minutes, and then we'll leave some time for question and answer. Or you can answer the questions as you go. If so, then you're going to watch out for the 4 types of audience members that I've identified here. The tripper. The tripper is someone who wants to trip you up, and they want to debate you. Okay? Do not get into a debate with them, especially in your audience. You can say, let's talk offline. That's really interesting. And listen to their question and provide a succinct, factual answer. A big part of presenting is to know how much to say and with as much brevity as possible. So being very clear and succinct, but also very direct. So there's no misconstruing and you're not talking for an extended period of time. So practice that, right? Like if you know that certain questions are going to come up, like let's say about vaccines, you know certain questions are going to come up. Try to give that presentation with an answer to those commonly given questions. I mentioned listen to their question probably in all of these. So I do want to emphasize one major thing about giving a presentation, which is to use the pause. Don't rush. Even if you don't feel comfortable about answering that question, don't make up words or don't make up answers. Just say, I'll get back to you on that one. The pause makes people think about the question and gives them the comfort that you're putting thought into it and that you're not blowing them off, that you're really listening to them. Especially if it's a hot issue, again, I'll use vaccinations. People come to a presentation and they want to confront you. So it's important that you make yourself available and listen and not be defensive so that next time you present, they actually trust you and they value you as a resource. Remember that even in your audience, if you really want to make a good presentation, it's not you giving the presentation and they're just, passively listening. A good presentation is one where they're engaged with you and that you recognize that they also want to be heard. There is the derailer. The derailer is someone who wants to throw you off topic. They just want to talk and they'll talk about anything. So again, like if you're talking about heartburn, they may want to talk about their diarrhea. Same GI tract system, totally different topic. Again, you want to listen to them, answer their question as it relates to your presentation, then segue gently back into your presentation. The derailer does not want to mess you up. They just have so many things they want to talk about that they will try to take you off topic. But you want to segue gently back into the presentation with things like this. That's interesting. That leads me to the next topic. Let's talk offline after the presentation. Point them to a resource that answers that question, or, like I said before, I don't know too much about that, but I can find out more information for you. There is the relative. The relative is the person that does not have a question, but wants to relate their experience to your presentation. They have a tendency to dominate the presentation or the discussion. If they dominate too much, use segues like this. You want to listen, you want to smile, you want to nod. I like the nod. Say thank you for your comments. And then let's give someone else a chance to ask a question. Let's hear what other people have to say. Let me take a question from over there. Do you have a question? To be respectful of time, I'm going to move on. Then there's the heckler. The heckler thinks your presentation is a bunch of baloney. They were probably required to be here and therefore do not want to be here at all. So a perfect example of a heckler is when I was giving a bloodborne pathogen presentation to some firefighters and police officers. Actually, I think they were just police officers in the local township. They did not want to be there. They were forced to be there by their police chief. And when they saw me, you know, they're like, there's a lot of that going on. Even if it would be hard, take the question on, okay? Don't call them out on it and be like, hey, you, why are you huffing and puffing over there? You have to know your audience. If you know the audience is gonna be like this, then you wanna get their attention, like really throw yourself into it and, you know, get them engaged as much as possible. Offer them resources. Hey, if you don't wanna listen to me, the CDC says this, okay? If you don't wanna listen to me, you can go to these resources. Of course, you don't say if you don't wanna listen to me, because everyone should wanna listen to you, because remember, you're the subject matter expert. So offer them resources, offer them credible resources, and don't get into a debate with them. Know that there's only so much you can do to change their attitude, but you may be able to change their knowledge on something, which may lead to an attitude and behavior change later on. So again, if you act professional, if you use the pause, if you believe that they want to be heard and you value their time, they will realize that, hey, this person might be someone I might want to listen to. So the pre-test, post-test. I know from you know, going to school that we are always told to do a pre-test, post-test. I will say that it is a good source of collecting data, and it makes for good data. You know, the pre-test has the same questions as the post-test. You ask if they've learned anything. Hopefully you'll see a change in their knowledge from pre-test to post-test. So give the pre-test before you start. Remember to have pencils and pens and extra to give out, extra pre-tests, I mean, and then give the post-test at the end and catch them before they leave. Pre-test and post-test might be a requirement for a pre-formatted presentation, so use them definitely, because it also shows that you gave the presentation and you collected data. Make the pre-test, post-test paper colors different colors. So maybe the pre-test is blue, maybe the post-test is yellow. That way you and the participants can tell the difference. Otherwise, they're the same questions. They're going to be like, why do I have to take this over again? And again, I want to emphasize, if you don't know what you want to achieve in your presentation, then your audience never will, okay? It is super important to, you know, it's kind of like the precede, proceed theory. You know, you have to know where you want to end in order to know how to begin, all right? So if you have good, solid objectives, if you know you want to accomplish certain things, you want to get certain topic issues out and make them informed about, you know, smoking and the use of hookahs and how bad they are for you, then make sure that you get that out very clearly, repeat that often, and make sure that they know it at the end. But that's all up to you. Every presenter on this phone call today or on this webinar will have a different style. But just make sure that you are professional enough to know that you start from the end of where you want to be at the end and tailor your presentation onward from the beginning that way. Don't forget your evaluation, not only for this webinar, but for every program that you do. You may have a pre-formatted evaluation, so if so, use that. We may have a presentation on how to do an evaluation, so if that's something you are interested in, like what questions should I ask? Should I use a Likert scale? What should I use? Do I use open-ended questions? let us know and we'll create a webinar for you on how to do that. If your audience is tech savvy, like you are, or has internet access, which you also do, create a SurveyMonkey evaluation, which you will receive after this webinar, or some other online survey system for ease of reporting. Main things that you want to evaluate, though, in general, you want to evaluate where your objectives met. Don't put where the objectives met. Outline each and every objective that you have and make sure that those were met. Because maybe you covered only 3 out of the 4 objectives that you wanted. If so, that's important for you to know and tailor for your next presentation. How well did you present the information? Open-ended questions can give you feedback. So what did they like? What didn't they like? What would they like to learn more about in the future? Other topics they'd like to know about? And what behavior changes will they make? How will this affect the work that they do? So in some evaluations that we've taken or given, we'll say in the next 6 months, how do you plan to use this presentation information in your place of work or in your daily activities? So for example, if you're teaching something on how to read a food label, right? You can ask people in the next 6 months or in the next 3 months, how will you plan to incorporate this information on food labels when you go shopping? And then what was their main takeaway? What did you learn after this presentation? Note that these are some of the same questions you're going to see in your evaluation in just a few minutes. All right, here's question and answer time. The way to get in contact with me again is to use that chat function or open it up to unmuting yourself, I believe, and I could actually hear and see you.
Yes, if you do want to ask a question and unmute yourself, just make sure you find the mute button before you start talking, and then your picture will pop up front and center for us to see.
Don't be shy, it's okay.
You can practice your intonation with Candace.
You know, vocal fry, I'm gonna reach through this camera and I'm gonna like shake you until you stop doing it. Are we sending out evals by email? Yes.
And again, you can expect that within the next couple minutes after we sign off here, you will see that. And just as one final reminder with that, we'll provide the checklist to any of you that do complete the evaluation. So the last question on the evaluation is actually to provide your email so that we can send that out probably within the next day or so. So make sure you do that right away.
Okay, vocal fry one more time. My connection timed out for that. Hi, Christina. So, you know, for my colleagues who are on the phone call, if I'm not doing vocal fry correctly, then let me know. But vocal fry is an intonation when your voice, it's an inflection, is what someone else gave the great word for that. When your voice goes up at the end of every statement. So if you are talking like this, and I want to talk to you today about health education and how to give an amazing presentation. So today we're going to talk about this to you about this, and your voice goes up and it keeps inflecting upward. It does sound like you're making a question instead of a statement. And to most people, they need to know you're finished. So the way we know we're finished is if our voice goes down and you give that nice pause. So like a long, continuous questioning thought? Yes, sort of like that. What was the most embarrassing thing that happened to you during a presentation? Oh, what was the most embarrassing thing that happened to you during a presentation? There are many. When I first gave my presentation, I think I wore a shirt that was too small, and like the button kept popping open. So safety pins are really great. You probably don't want to hear that. Another embarrassing thing is you don't have enough materials for everyone. Oh gosh, that's the worst, right? Like you're giving it out and everybody wants everything, right? They collect everything and then you don't have enough for everyone, and that's the worst. So always bring extra. Every time I seem to be like a big perspirer, or I just suddenly happen to be that, you know, or like it's a hot, humid day in Newark, or, you know, wherever I'm giving a presentation, and the parking lot is like 50 miles away from the actual presentation, and I didn't think to like drop it in front of the place first and then find a parking space and then walk. So I was schlepping all of my stuff, and I come in like all like drippy and sweaty. And then there are other times.
If I can jump in for one, Candace,
Yeah,
I have to share one of my favorite, most embarrassing things. I had an extension cord in a room, and I made sure that each of the 30 participants knew it was there so that they wouldn't fall. And I literally fell on my face in the middle of the presentation. So that was an interesting one to recover from. So bad things will happen, and you just got to roll with it.
Yeah, which is why you need the duct tape, guys. That's why the duct tape is there, because you can tape down your cord so that you don't trip over the cord that you said don't trip on. Because sometimes we get a little too excited. But that's happened to me too. I just didn't want to bring it up, but thank you. Is that enough embarrassing stuff for you? They do happen. I'm telling you, they happen. How do you become a member of NJ Sophie? When can you become a member? You can become a member right now. Do it right now. Like right after you get this, then you do your evaluation and become a member of NJ Sophie, because it's the best thing you'll ever do for your professional career. You can just log on to njsophe.org, so that's njsophe.org, and then you just click on membership, and then you can sign up for a student new professional membership. I believe it's only $20. Let me tell you, that's like, what is that, 5 Starbucks drinks? Like a small, maybe a Vendi? That's awesome. And then you get me all the time, so you should definitely do it. Let's see, thanks, you're welcome. Would chess be a good way to start out in public health before going for your master's in public health? Yeah. Okay, so as president, I have to tell you, yeah, chess is awesome because you are certified, and it actually shows that you're certified. And lots of people who are looking for health educators are looking for that in their job application. They're looking for you to be chess certified. Because the certification guarantees that they're getting someone who has invested time in studying about their profession and their code of ethics. So that's really important. However, if you're going straight from your undergraduate to your master's, and you're not going into the work field, then maybe you want to not take it just yet. At that point, you have more leeway, more time. But if you're going for a job, you should really, right out of undergraduate, you should really get your chess. And just get the chess in general, no matter what. And they have study guides on ncheck.org. So you can get that. Okay. Yeah, Colleen, bring tape, duct tape. It's just better tape. Painter's tape rather than duct tape. So yeah, duct tape, you know, will pull your hair out of your follicles, but painter's tape is nice and easy, especially if you're going to use somebody's wall and you're going to peel off their paint with duct tape. Don't put duct tape on the wall, by the way. Duct tape goes on the floor, on linoleum, not on the wall with paint. Definitely use painter's tape for that. Otherwise, duct tape will definitely pull their wall paint, and you'll never be invited to come back again, ever. So definitely don't use duct tape for that. Ncheck.org was another thing that Linda had mentioned, so glad she spelled that out. The chess is available in April and October every year. So that's that. A chess requires specific credit hours to take the test. Credit hours? Linda's not.
Yeah, so there's certain academic requirements.
Yeah.
Typically, it's 21 credit hours of your undergraduate or master's degree. But typically, if you are in a certificate-based program, if you don't reach those hours, that will allow you to sit for it. But if you're unsure of your eligibility requirements, that ncheck.org will give you some more specifics. NCHEC is also really receptive to questions if you're unsure what your transcript might allow. So I would definitely encourage you to reach out to them. And if you have any issues, you should have my email. I'd be happy to connect you to somebody in the organization.
And Linda posted that we will have our annual NJ Sophie conference on December 7th at Monmouth University, where we will be talking about the importance of CHES and NCHES and how to get credits for that and continuing education credits throughout your professional career, and how to keep yourself certified and fresh throughout. So definitely come and save the date for December 7th at Monmouth University if you have questions on that. Megan Walsh, if you're driving, you shouldn't be driving and listening to the webinar at the same time. It's kind of like texting. I see you, girl. I see you. Yeah, girl, you're looking down at me right now. Ha ha! You better be focusing on the road. Pull over. This is a great thing about the webinar. So I think we should do this again. Does anyone have any other questions before it's 5 minutes before we have to end this fabulous NJ Sophie party here? This has been awesome. I don't know about you guys. Is this convenient for you? We want to know. So please make sure you do your evaluation. They'll be mailed out to you shortly. I'm going to read word for word just to annoy you guys. We value your opinions and will base future programs on your responses. Anybody else have anything they want to say to me? Shout me out some love here, guys. This was awesome.
Thank you all for participating. We really do appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, you know, again, I'll be emailing you the evaluation. So feel free to reach out to me if you need to get in touch with Candace or have any other questions along the way. So we really appreciate it, and we hope we'll see you again on a future webinar or at the meeting in June. Thank you.